Hi, I'm Andrew, and welcome to another video in Filmcraft Reviews. This week I'll be reviewing the newest in Hollywood's long-going entries of bad video game to film adaptations, Assassin's Creed. So to start off, I'll apologize for the way I sound. I'm getting over a really bad head cold, and my voice still sounds like ass. Secondly, or B, for whoever's keeping track, I don't even know, you'll notice that there's nobody else on this couch with me to review like usual. That's because nobody else I know has seen this movie, and there's a reason for that. Why did I see it? Because apparently I'm a movie masochist. So, Assassin's Creed stars Michael Fassbender as Callum Lynch, a murderer who's been sentenced to death. So after the world pronounces him dead, he wakes up to see a scientist named Sophia Ricken, played by Marion Cotillard, who tells him that she needs his help to locate an ancient artifact called the Apple of Eden, using a device that she created called the Animus to track down the genetic memories of his ancestor, one specifically from 15th century Spain, also known as the time of the Spanish Inquisition, to find an assassin ancestor of his called Aguilar, who is completely new to this franchise, by the way, and never once been in any of the video games, and I'm totally fine with that. So from there, Callum learns a lot more about his ancestry and about the ancient order of the Assassin's Creed, which has been at war with another faction called the Order of Templars, who have been trying to find ancient artifacts throughout history to use to take over the world. Basically take over the world, the same shit you've heard a million times before. And so this plays out entirely the way that you would expect it to. Complete with surprise enemy in the end. Spoilers, not a surprise enemy, basically was the same enemy you saw throughout the whole course of the movie, played by Jeremy Irons, the CEO of Abstergo, the company that has been doing this the entire time through the movie. Alright, so I know everyone has probably heard a lot of bad things about this movie, and I'm not exactly starting this off by saying all the best things about the movie, but I'm going to try to start it off by saying all the best things about the movie that I can. This movie is based off the Assassin's Creed video games, like you already know, and I'm a big fan of those Assassin's Creed video games. I've played all of them, and this one stars an entirely new original character, sort of, with an entirely new original backstory, also sort of. What they do with this movie is they do the most direct video game to film adaptation they possibly could, more than I've seen in any one of these kinds of movies. They get everything that was in those games almost down to a T, except for the precise details of character names and a little bit of their backstories, which actually works to the movie's detriment. But we'll get to that in a minute. Alright, as much as I want to talk pros about this movie first, there is no way I can. I'm going to have to save all those pros for the end of this review. Alright, this is a bore fest of a movie. Right from the beginning, you see an opening crawl in this movie that tells you exactly everything you're going to see in this movie and exactly what the history of it is, which is what an opening crawl is supposed to do. You get that in things like Star Wars. But it tells you things that you already experienced, and they tell you about and explain to you in great detail right from the beginning of the movie. So it was a completely pointless opening crawl. And from there onwards, pretty much everything you see that has anything to do with what is going on in the present with Michael Fassbender's character of Callum Lynch is boring. It is exposition, 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 boring cinematography, boring bland characters, boring bland acting from characters that are played by incredible talents like Marion Cotillard and Michael Fassbender that do nothing to immerse you into this story, which is really sad because it has a great and interesting source material to pull from, and you can tell there's an interesting story trying to come up in this. The first thing they show you after that opening crawl is a scene in the past with Aguilar, Michael Fassbender's ancestor character, that he also plays. And that's very interesting. It's a really cool set, it's a really cool scene with him being initiated into the Order, and it looks beautiful, but straight from there, it brings you right into new things that do not actually interest you. Alright, so from there onward, you're brought into this story that you are very lost in. You're very confused, and you really honestly are not really getting why you should even be invested in this story, because no one who's even talking about this story, this entire search for this ancient artifact, this relic, this Apple of Eden that's capable of controlling people's free will, does it seem that anyone's even really interested in it themselves. So if those characters aren't going to be interested, why should you be? It trudges and trudges and trudges and drags and drags and drags until eventually he does finally step foot into the Animus machine, and it takes you into the past where things immediately start to get more interesting. You see all these really awesome fights and stunts and great choreography with its assassin characters that are trying desperately to find the Apple of Eden and get it from the Grand Inquisitors of the Spanish Inquisition, which looks amazing, all of it. All of those big, broad landscapes, all those big, bright costumes and set designs, these huge, obviously splooging the money all over the screen moments that should be the central focus points of the movie because of how interesting they are, end up only being very small portions of this movie. Which is sad. It's sad because as you are in this past, they keep jumping you back and forth from the present to the past, the present to the past, and every time it's so jarring. It pulls you right out of that really cool story, that really fun adventure, and the worst times they do it are these moments of really great stunts. There are these really cool assassin blade action and assassin free-running action that they keep jumping back and forth to Michael Fassbender being hooked up into the end of the Animus machine, doing all the stunts himself, which pull you right out of it. And every single time I saw it, it started making me yell at the screen, getting frustrated because as I was into it, I was immediately pulled out. When they bring you back into the present, you see all these characters again, and you start to understand that there is a lot more that's going on. You start to see and hear things from these other people who have assassin lineage who are also put in the Animus machine, which they try to do that thing that allows you to realize that they're also going to play a bigger part later on. The moment you see all these people, you pretty well figure, oh yeah, they're going to try to break out, they're going to take over the facility. You know that the moment you see it in. There is no surprises in this movie whatsoever in that regard. And that's exactly what they do. So Michael Fassbender finally agrees to step foot into this machine on his own, of his own accord, and help them search for the Apple of Eden. And then and then when it gets finally to the end, to this big climactic sequence, all the people do exactly what you thought they would. They try to take over the facility, and they try to make it seem like these characters are all going to continue on into the big finale of it, and the big epic action finale. And you feel nothing in it because you don't know anything about these characters, and that's one of the biggest problems in this movie. The characters. They are so uninteresting, they are so bland, they're given such little time to develop and find anything more about them. Yeah, and the only ones they give any real depth to are Callum Lynch and Sophia Ricken, and her father, the CEO of Abstergo, played by Jeremy Irons, who makes a pretty fun kind of villain in this movie, and you find out that he is the current leader of the Order of the Templars, the one who've been fighting against the Assassins all this time for all these centuries. But even he isn't even playing it to the best visibility. Even he isn't that fun of a villain. And that's what this movie really lacks more than anything. Any real fun. Any real enjoyment. Because all the most enjoyable parts of this movie are cut and pieced apart and edited so choppy and so poorly that you can never let yourself get fully immersed into it. So, all in all, as much as I wanted to have a really fun time with this movie, as much as I wanted to see this finally be one of the big, great new, probably the first good video game to film adaptation, which we've seen so many of those at this point, ends up being just another piss poor excuse of an entry that had such great potential. This could have been one of the best, and it didn't. It squandered it. All in all, 3 Assassin's Blades out of 10. That's the best I can say about this movie. So, thanks for tuning in this week. Next time, Filmcrafts will be teaching you how to be an assassin, and our newest sketch, How to Be an Assassin. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share it with your friends. I'm Andrew, this is Filmcrafts.